All right, let's do a quick mic check. Make sure everything is working. All right, I know I started late today. I'm sorry. Things just, I don't know. Just couldn't get moving properly today. All right, but we're going to start the day off, I think, with a little bit of Dresden, if I can grab him, because he's so hyper right now. So hyper. Hyper little boy. Oh, so cute, too. Just flops on the ground. Oh, so cute. All right. I'm in. Let's see if I can get this up in time. Dresden, look at the little boy. Meow. He's so hyper right now. So hyper. This is why his nickname is Squirmy Worm. Because he's so squirmy. He's so silly. Alrighty. Last time I had a fly in here. So I got a fly swatter, but let's see if Dresden likes the fly swatter. Dresden. Actually, I don't need to use a fly swatter. I have a toy that I know he likes. Let me see if I can find it. And I can hold him and play with him, and you all can enjoy a little bit of cat cuteness. Question is, do I know where I put that toy? Answer is probably not. Yeah, I don't. Oh well. Dresden. Dresden, come on. Why you been like that? He just wants me to chase him around the house, is what's going on. Unfortunately, I have stream plans. I can't just chase him around the house right now. Yeah, I got string for you. Literally just some string. All it takes to entertain the little boy. I got you. All right, I got you. Now, aha, aha. No, 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 no. Here, here, here. Get it, get it, get it. Tristan. Ah, okay. All right, Tristan. That's enough. So my easel literally like dropped when I was getting ready and almost dropped the painting. I think there's too much weight on it and the handle wasn't tight enough. So that almost happened. So I just have to reposition things a little bit. Yeah, like I said, almost had the painting fall off the easel and go straight into the onto the floor. Luckily that didn't happen, but it was pretty close. Dresden, no, do not eat those. Those are headphones. Don't eat those. This little boy. This system is so unintuitive. I wish there was a better option. That's as close as I'm going to get. All right. But yeah, this, like I said, the whole easel just like dropped. The bar that is the support, I guess I didn't tighten it enough, and yeah, that's what happens. So my camera, setup wasn't quite right because of that. Alrighty. So a little bit of news regarding this painting and the series of paintings that I have planned for this. Um, there's a very good chance I will end up uh, buying genuine gold leaf and using that instead of the imitation stuff. Yeah, but I have to order it first. So yeah. But yeah, looking into it, um, looks like there's a good chance that's what I'll end up doing. Which, it is not cheap. I mean, it is not a lot of gold, obviously, but yeah, it is not cheap. But yeah, most likely that's because um looking into it and trying to get all the information. I'll probably repeat this a few times as people come in and chat. Um, but looking into it, the issue with the fake gold is that it will or it can tarnish over time. So you have to seal it once it's on, and it creates a lot of you know kind of problems and failure points. And using the genuine thing doesn't. Well, it eliminates some of it. It's still got some issues that I have to deal with, but yeah, good chance I'll just end up going with the genuine thing because I don't use a lot of it either, so it'll be hopefully it'll last a very, very long time. Or, will go a long way, so to speak. We shall see. Alrighty. Oh shoot. I forgot. My camera is out of out of storage. Hopefully my other SD card is empty because that'd be a problem. Okay, it is. Good. Trying to fix it so it doesn't bloom like that, the light, but I can't quite do it. Hmm. I really hope everything's still wet because I worked on it, yes, recently. Good. All right. I am just trying to figure out areas I need to work on right now. All right. All right. I think I got a plan. Hi, Dresden. Little boy, have you calmed down at all? Or are you still hyper? Once the zoomies wear off. Oh, once the zoomies wear off, you just want to hang out? No. Dresden. Ah, okay. That's something that needs fixing. Ooh. All right. Let's start with something easy first, though. It's always good to start with easy stuff first. Get warmed up. All right. Okay, sure. I'm sure this isn't a scam. Thanks. First time chatter. Hey, you stream really well. I'll love to become your dedicated fan and support you. Add me on Discord. Oh yeah. That sounds legit. So legit. Uh, Des had to grab pizza back now. Oh, well, enjoy your pizza. How are you doing today, Des? So, De- Des, when you're back, let me know if you were able to find the medium. It's kind of a lost day. I don't know where the time has gone. You need a reset. I feel that. I started streaming late for a kind of a similar reason. Um I was busy. I did some chores. Our fence broke, so I'm dealing with that. And then I was too tired to like stream immediately, so I sat down. I was like, "Oh, I'll look some stuff up and do some stuff." And then the time just like vanished. So, I was researching it, and I said this earlier, but obviously you weren't here. There is a good chance that I'm just going to end up buying uh, genuine gold leaf for this painting and the series of paintings that I've planned. Um, yeah, luckily it's not a lot. Like, it's a large area, but it's very, very thin. Um, but yeah, looks like there's a good chance I'll have to do that just because a genuine gold leaf won't tarnish over time. That says, no, that medium doesn't exist in my town. I might look and see if the little shop in a nearby town that has fine art school might have some. I mean, I'm shocked. Like, I guess the issue is like when you need it by, because you know that's kind of an issue. But otherwise, it's like I'm surprised it's so difficult to get there. You probably have enough to get these through these two products, but I'm OCD and need to have stuff in hand before I run out. I understand that. I'll be honest, I don't quite like, I don't know why you n- need those mediums at all. Um, unless you have, unless the delivery time is so tight that you really need it. But it doesn't sound like that. That says we have art supply stores, but they cater to acrylic painters and crafters, so no oil supplies. Right, I get that. But I mean, really, like I don't know, those mediums really, it's like it's when you have to have it dry by like, in a couple days kind of thing. It says it's about quick drying and some of my paints are feeling sluggish. Right. No, I mean, yeah, I just, like I said, I almost never need my paints to dry fast unless the, you know, needs to be done like like they need to pick it up, in a week or in a day, a couple days or something. And last time I used it was for that charity event thing. But otherwise, yeah, I don't need it. May 1 deadline on the big commission. I mean, uh, I guess it depends when you're planning on having it done. If you get it done by April, like literally 15th, then it'd be dry, no problem. Unless you're like doing a ton of impasto. Yeah, varnish is like 2 days. I would say a day, but if you want to be safe, 2 days, honestly. At least the varnish I use. There's probably better varnishes that are faster too. See the pattern? I panic a lot. Yeah, but I feel like you should focus on getting it done sooner rather than on the supplies. Just get it done by, you know, like May, your deadline isn't May 1st, your deadline's, you know, um April 15th. You know what I mean? And then none of this other stuff matters kind of thing. But, obviously I'm not telling you what to do. I just like in my mind, that's how I see it. And don't get me wrong, that's a big painting to do in that time, but it just depends on the complexity of it and what else you're doing, to make whether or not how doable that is. I definitely think it's doable though. It's coming along. I'll send you a work in progress, but I'm now up in the air about some things on it, and the face feels cakey. I mean, sure, I'd love to see your work in progress. I don't entirely know what cakey. I mean, I guess I associate cakey in this context with you know, like makeup kind of thing, but sure. Paint feels thick on the face and I don't want to appear that way. Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, there's an easy solution for that, but that, I mean, it comes with its issues. You think it's the white you use to mix? Okay. I mean, different felt paints definitely have like some different textures and feels to them. Absolutely. If it's a cheap white with a lot of filler, maybe? I don't know. Like I said, I've never experienced cakey per se, but, like, sure, I could see it. It's so cool in painting sometimes how, like, little it takes to kind of convey something. Like, sometimes there are things that you can just with so little, it just kinda makes things have the what you're, you know, trying to accomplish, or partially at least. One of the things that's so cool in oil painting. I guess it's all painting. But yeah, I was suggesting the, oh, what's it called? Quick drying white for you, does, but I personally have never used it, but I know other artists who, like, swear by it. Instead of using liquid, they prefer, like, the fast drying, uh, white, but I've never used it, so I don't have a lot of input on it. Mm. You just have to work on the piece more often so the paint doesn't start to dry up and get thick on the palette. I mean, for it to not dry on the palette, that's different than on, you know, and everything else. I would tell you to add clove oil to your paint, but I've actually heard that it can be damaging to the paint film over time or something. I don't know. So I'm hesitant to recommend it to anybody. I still use clove oil in my palette, but I don't actually put it in the paint. I just leave it so that it is in the air inside my palette, but I'm sure a degree of it mixes with the paint, but I think I just want it to like stop the paint from oxidizing as much, you know. But I don't like mix it into the paint anymore. But yeah, I mean, putting it in the freezer is supposedly one of the best ways to keep your paint from drying out on the palette. I'm sure I'm gonna have to work on this more because doing this type of thing is not my strong suit, but do what I can right now. think this handle needs to shift a little. I will say this part of the scene is a bit on the complex side because not only is there a bunch of geometric, you know, objects, but this is actually reflected in the mirror. So you can see kind of the doubling up happening right here and right there, and that creates a lot of um, weird elements. And the way that things work in mirrors is um, both simple and complex. And it can get very complicated. I need to sit. I will say the other thing about this painting that is also like, complicated is just how much detail do I really want to put into everything? Like I put in the door panels a little bit. And the question becomes like really how much detail do I even want to put into that, you know? Like I want you to know it's a door, but I also don't really want to like go in and, do everything. And it's not just because I'm lazy, partially that, but not only. Okay, that is way more yellow than I thought it would be. Really mixing with this thing is not ideal, but you know, still do it sometimes. Yeah, really, I should just mix this with the palette knife or something. Oh well. think the lights are a little too light there, but, whatever. It's a start. Oh, that's too much phthalo blue, I think. Ridiculous how little it takes. Such a pretty color, though. That is too bright. Way too bright. All right, that stuff is going to need some adjustment for sure. But, you know, got to start somewhere. I realized I needed to cool that shadow off a little bit. Hold on. Let's see here. Oh, I see. I think the lines here aren't straight, so just have to probably check that before I do too much on that. So sorry, I've gone quiet. Everything is crazy here. I'm having PC issues, and I tried to move my big painting to work on it, but now I have space issues, pet issues. It's nonstop. No worries, you're fine. It's all good. These streams, I mean, how can I put this? If I had a ton of people in here, that would be awesome. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't get as much painting done. So it's always a trade-off, and it's fine. You think you have to get a new PC? I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. Michelle's got some problems with her PC. Had to buy her a new hard drive, and I haven't had time to install it yet because our gate blew over. We've had to deal with that. What's wrong with your computer that you think you need a new one? It keeps shutting down when I have it asleep. I was making noises last night, like I was hitting wrong buttons, but it wasn't even using it. It won't restart without hard rebooting. It's a laptop, right? Or is it a tower? Oh, it's a tower. Oh, that's easier to deal with. Um, First thing I would recommend, if you haven't done it lately, clean it out physically, take it outside, dust it, get a, air canister and stuff. Something to be careful though if you do that, when you blast air into the fans, hold them so they don't spin, because when they spin, even if they're not connected, it can mess things up. Um, but yeah, that would be the first thing to do. Make sure that it's not a hardware issue that's happening because of like overheating. You cleaned it out 2 weeks ago. Um, then the other thing I would do is I would get there's some free monitoring software, like, can't remember what it's called, but there's free monitoring software that can monitor your, like the temperatures and stuff like that inside your computer. Um, because the next thing I would look at is like, is it overheating? When was the last time you cleaned and reapplied the thermal paste? For your CPU. You know, and then I would make sure that the RAM, everything is connected properly. Stuff like that. But yeah, and then if you do have another computer that you can gut and start mix and matching pieces to see if anything is you know causing it to like fail specifically, because it, like I said, it might be a hardware issue. If it's not a hardware issue, because that's the thing, right? Like if it's a hardware issue, then you need to replace something. If it's not a hardware issue, then all you have to do is reinstall, do a wipe to the system and reinstall it, and everything should work fine. That's also another option you could do. If you have a spare hard drive, you can install a clean, wipe it, install a clean system on it, and boot from that system to see if there's any problems. That would also be a way of diagnosing it for, you know, if it's hardware or software issues, right? Because if you put a completely clean system on it and you're still having issues, well, then clearly it's a hardware issue. But if not, then okay, then it's your system. Uh, Either way, um, you don't have to buy a brand new everything if you can kind of figure out specifically what it is. Most common, like, I think most common things are like a hard drive is failing, it's overheating, um, the power supply's messed up, uh, the RAM's messed up, or the motherboard is messed up. I realize those are like the main parts of the computer, but usually it's one of them, and it's easy to replace any one of those pieces. You were thinking about getting a new one anyway, but uh this starting to happen, so you're planning ahead. And that's good. Just you know, I am sorry about the uh state of computers and how expensive the RAM is and everything. Your other secondary PC is a 13-year-old one that's messing up. Is the gaming art PC? Oh, the one that's messing up is the gaming art PC. Yeah. Freaking, I'm using at this point, I'm using an old underpowered graphics card. Because they were so expensive when I built my computer, and they still are. It's ridiculous how expensive some of these components are. And it's one of those things, like I kind of get it too, because like most people don't need a ton of power, in their computers. But Some people do. I do have my old PC. Most of it's in pieces and stuff, but I do need to kind of like go through it. And I was going to I have it kind of as a backup in case, but I really need to go through it and kind of put it back together to working so that it's like semi functional. And maybe um, dive into Linux at some point. I'm so frustrated with, you know, Windows and also what's it called? Mac and everything. I just There's just some programs that don't run in Linux is the real issue. If that wasn't the case, if some of the programs that if certain programs and certain things that I needed ran in Linux, I would be off of Windows. First time chatter, king of what's left. Welcome. Looks good. Looks great. Thank you. Appreciate that. How are you doing today? How's the kingdom? Hmm. Are you an artist, Kings of What's Left? King of What's Left is doing great. Just trying to find some inspiration, huh? Yeah. Uh, Inspiration for what, I guess, would be the question. Kingdom is tiny but affordable-ish. fair. I have something to inspire you, though. Wait for it. Inspiration. Oh, look at that. He's so cute. So cute. Little toe beans. Oh, he was asleep. He was asleep on my chair, and I totally woke him up just for that. It's okay. He wakes me up and does all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's payback. His name's Dresden after Harry Dresden, the wizard from the Dresden Files. That's a fine looking squirrel. That's funny. Hey, Donley, welcome. Uh, Kingdom of What's Left says, genuinely don't know. I've been working on art on and off for decades, but I can't find a style that speaks to me. LOL. Um, so when it comes to style, I have, I think, like two or three recommendations that I could, that I could, tell you, but obviously it's always up to you. Donley has been lurking, making food at the moment. Awesome, Donley. Thanks for lurking. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoy your food. By the way, Kingdom of What's Left. Don Lee is also a streamer. He streams on Twitch. He does digital art and sometimes some gaming stuff. He's a lot more like pop culture related. Not only, but more. And a lot of fun. Highly recommend him. So, um, yeah. Uh, there. Manual shout out because I don't have the things set up. Um, but honestly, this what's it called? Um, this advice for style applies to anyone and everyone. I would say, um, oh, hold on, let's see. Kingdom of What's Left says it's like I like impressionism, but I like aspects of contemporary, and I can't seem to mesh the two. So, okay. Advice for people looking for their style, and I'll kind of tailor it to you towards the end, but in general, first get good, like practice, learn the basics, get good at being able to produce artwork that is in the ballpark of what you want to do. Obviously, if you want to do impressionism, then don't do photorealism, but kind of in the like direction. So you learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, that type of stuff. Um, then uh, your your own style will naturally kind of come out of that. But this is an important aspect of it. Just because you have like natural tendencies that come out, they could come out because it's who you are. It could be because of your teachers. It could be because of the influences. Just because it comes out in a certain way doesn't mean that you have to lean into that. Especially because when you first start out, there's certain kind of tendencies that happen to a lot of people because you're learning the fundamentals, you're learning the basics, and so a lot of times people focus a lot on, um, on competency in that realm, and they tighten up and they start getting very detailed, and stiff. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, go for it. But, you know, just because you're starting to go in that direction doesn't mean you have to lean into it. Now, if it's what you love, you're like, I love detail all day long, and go for it. But it's worth keeping in mind that you can pivot at any point. Then, what I would say is once you've gotten the fundamentals down a bit, the next thing would be to find find the artists that are making the closest thing to the type of artwork you want to make, and then try to do that. And if you don't know what that is, try a bunch of styles, because one thing that happens to a lot of artists, I know for me it was this way too. There's a lot of art that I like, that I find inspiring, but it's not the type of artwork that I want to do. And it could be for a number of reasons. One of which is I just really don't enjoy the process of making it. My brain doesn't work that way. It's not fun. It just not something I like. And so you narrow it down to like, okay, but so what if you don't like doing that, then what do you like doing? And find the artists that do that, and then try to, you know, learn from them. And then obviously you're going to, as you try and learn from them, you and mimic their style, you'll develop more of your own. And especially if you have, for instance, like King of What's Left, if you have two types of artwork, two types of styles that you really like, then practice one, practice the other, and then practice trying to make them come together in a way that works, and try it a few times, try it in different ways. What if I treated this part like this, and this other part that way? Or what if I did the opposite? Or what if I started one way and finished the other? Or the opposite? And as you go through you start putting this puzzle together of like, okay, these are the pieces it's made out of. How do I kind of get them to, sit together? But that's kind of how I go about it. All right, now let me catch up on chat. Donley says, if you're looking for a style to speak to you, I suggest might do some master studies of artists you like. Absolutely. Not trying to imitate them exactly, but figure out why they made the choices they did, or try to incorporate some techniques into how you do things. I mean, master studies, like, do a straight up copy. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't claim it as your own. Just say it was a study of, whoever it was. Generally, it's better to do of dead people because, but you can do it of living people too, of course. After a while, Donnelly says, after a while, you might find a style will emerge. True. King of What's Left says, I genuinely don't like photorealistic. Fair. I feel like it's showing off that you can do something and no other reason. I disagree with that, but I get it. Donnelly says, yeah, what Liad said, lol. King of What's Next says, that's a good idea. Yeah, well, I hope it helps. Photorealism, I get where you're coming from. There is an element of, with photorealism, there is without a doubt an element of just pure technical skill, and I can't help be impressed by it because it is genuinely impressive. Um, Most photoreal to me feels absolutely pointless because most photoreal, as far as I know, they're working from a photo. So they're just kind of recreating the photo. But if you're not adding anything or changing anything, what's the point, right? And if you're doing photoreal of reality, could I not just take a photo and get the same thing? Like, what are you adding to it? But having said that, I am positive that they don't feel that way. A. B. I'm sure there are photoreal artists out there who do more than just that. And that there's a lot of like subtleties and I'm sure ways of making it more. However, I totally get where you're coming from. But it's still impressive, and that's a fun thing. Like there are people who can do very impressive things that are not always the most meaningful. And I can appreciate how impressive those things are, regardless kind of thing. It's usually not something that's going to like move me or be really important to me, but I can still be impressed by it. Sometimes it's like feats that you're just like, how could a human do that? And sometimes it's other things. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's these acrobats that they do this show where um, they lay on their back and they like spin a table with their feet and they can spin it around in the air and everything. And it's like that is genuinely impressive. I have no idea how they're able to pull that off. It's entertaining for sure, but it's also like what a weird talent to have. But it's cool, you know. King of What's Left says, I feel like you should express something in art. Yes, photo real is impressive, but I feel like the artists are just shooting an apple blindfolded with a bow just because they can. It didn't add anything to the world of archery. I don't know that I agree with you entirely because I here's the thing. You don't we don't always see it. So first of all, we don't always see the reference, right? So I don't know. Are they adding more to it, taking away things? Are they making changes? I don't know how much changes they're making. And then there's scale and setting. We view a lot of things through our phone nowadays, but the experience of viewing these things where they're like meant to be viewed might change the feeling of it. You know what I mean? So there's a lot. It's not that simple. I totally get where you're coming from, but it's one of those things where it's like I want to give people a little more space, to, it, to explore what it is that their interest is. That's all. But I totally get where you're coming from, and you don't have to like enjoy it, of course. Um, but I'm also curious, like, what is the draw on their end? Like, what is the compulsion to try and do photorealism too? You know what I mean? That's also something that I'm curious about. But yeah, uh, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. I saw this I saw a video. I've seen a few videos about like modern art and that type of thing because I'm not a huge fan of modern art. I don't like most of it. I'm talking about like abstract and I guess abstract art and modern art, like that type of stuff where it's like it's just squares and colors and whatever, right? But I've seen some videos that changed my perception of it a little bit. Like, I had the opportunity to see some Rothko paintings in person. Finally, some of his larger square, rectangles and stuff, and they were underwhelming. I've always heard you have to see them in person. You have to see it in person. You have to see it in person. It didn't do much for me. And now this was at a museum. This wasn't at the chapel. He has a chapel in Houston. Still really want to go there. Um, so yeah, Rothko in person didn't really wow me. But I saw a video recently about what it must have been like to experience seeing a Rothko painting for the first time when it hadn't existed before. And the whole setting of how it was displayed, not in a museum, but in a dark hallway, and everything else about around the era and everything. The guy who was making the video did such a good job of painting a mental image of what it must have been like that it was like, okay, I it didn't do anything for me now, but maybe under the right circumstances, like yeah. Which is one of the reasons I still want to go to the Rothko Chapel because the whole place was built purposefully for those paintings, so it might be a different experience. Uh, ooh, King of What's Left says, I'm sure they are experiencing something, but I think for realism is just polar other extreme of abstract. I don't feel any emotion in either, but I'm sure the artist felt something. Oh, I'm sure. King of What's Next says, I just discovered a landscape artist, and after 2 seconds, I felt like I've never seen a true landscape before. Interesting. Which artist? I'm curious. Donley says, do you feel up to trying more gold leaf after your first attempt? Yes and no, Donley, but mostly no. And I'll get to why. King of What's Left is Thomas Cole. He was doing stuff that looked 200 years ahead of its time. Uh, that name sounds familiar, but I I can't like think of his artwork. I'll have to look it up. There's a good chance I know him, you know. Like it sounds familiar, but my brain is not pulling anything up with that name. Is he still alive, or is this a painter from, like, history? He's sort of considered the godfather of modern landscape, but he's from 1801 to 1850-ish, from the Hudson River. He's one from the Hudson River School. Uh, American American landscape artist, right? Yeah. Like I said, I think it sounds familiar. I'll have to look it up. So my camera, I record when I'm painting, and what I do is I do like uh 30-minute stints because my camera, if I go longer than 30 minutes, is likely to overheat. Once I start, I usually try not to take huge breaks or stop midway because then I'm left with these really annoying files to deal with. I'll check them out in a few minutes. It wasn't an actual school, just the genre they were given, surreal or impressionist. Okay. You live in the Hudson Valley. They were around there. Oh, interesting. Like I said, sounds familiar. I think I'm starting to have a vague impression. Did he do a lot of like really large paintings, if I remember? Is this if it's who I'm like starting to think of? I could be like, definitely could be wrong about that, but oh yes, very large paintings. Yeah, I think it's starting to jostle something in my brain. I think I saw some of his paintings recently, a couple of years ago, in, in Washington D.C. at the Museum of Art there. So all of them did those, but Thomas is the only one that you know of from the squad of the people. Okay, fair enough. Hey, if you found an artist that speaks to you, that's great. Are you gonna try now to do some landscapes, some studies of Thomas's work? His home museum is 30 minutes away. Going to take a tour next week. Oh, that's awesome. Enjoy. That sounds awesome. You're thinking about it? Nice. Doing a study. If I can make a recommendation, something that sometimes people do that really messes up their studies is if you try to do a study of, let's say, one of his paintings, right? You're like, I'm going to do a master study or even a master copy, right? Um, both great ways of learning. However, um, if you try to do a study of one of his paintings and his paintings is huge, right? And you're doing it small, um, you are making your life so hard because, there are elements to painting that are size specific. So just be aware of that. And if you were doing a study of someone, you can, like, if you want to do a small study of a large painting, then do it as like a composition study. But if you want to do like a real study of like brushwork and, rendering and stuff like that, cut out a piece that's the size of your painting surface and do it just of that. That's my recommendation. King of what's left, so I know I can't go as big as him, but 26 by 19 is small for me. Okay. So you're used to painting pretty large. I see. See, for me, I wouldn't call this a large painting at all. It's a 20 by 16, not a large painting. However, it is larger than a lot of, not most of the paintings I do, but a lot of the paintings I do because when I do painting, when I want to paint on stream and everything, and not just on stream, I do a lot of smaller paintings because it's quicker and easier. Um, you know, so I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't consider this a small painting. It's definitely um, larger than most of the ones I do. You don't have the time nor patience to get your hands that steady. LOL. That's funny. I don't think my hands are actually all that steady, but it's um but yeah, I found like 9 by 12 is a great like study size for me, you know. I was trying to do like daily paintings for a while, and 9 by 12 was my like my go-to size for like daily paintings. Only says, I've seen a number of paintings by artists of the Hudson River School style. Some of their pieces are huge. Yeah. Think of left says, I have a crap ton of like 8x11 canvases you got on sale. You use them for uh monochromatic shapes when you just want to warm up before painting. Oh, monochromatic shapes. Yeah. Some of the painting is wet, some of it's dry, and that's always a bad spot for my for painting to be at. I hate it when it's like that. Unless it's big enough to work on like sections, then that's different. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the size canvas they used were like full sheets of drywall. Yeah, I don't know. Um, um, yeah, some of the, I mean, it's insane. Some of the paintings that some of those, that people do. You really have to like step back to look at them, which is really cool. I did, I've done large paintings. I have one painting that's like a 30 by 40, one of my larger ones. Um, it was a lot of fun, but they take a while, unfortunately. It's like just part of the process, right? I think it's good to have like, I like to, ideally, if I have the time, what I would be doing is I would have a very large painting or two, and then I would have some, uh, you know, uh, I would do a lot of like smaller studies as well. So you kind of break it up because I have ADHD and I start to get bored of my larger paintings midway through. And I just want to like be done with it and move on to something else. Let's see. Uh, King of what's left is, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the size canvas to use was like full sheet drywall, like 5 by 7 feet. Uh, Conley says Thomas Cole painted in 8K, no HDR though. Right. Let's see. Yeah. I saw some of his paintings, I think, in what's it called? at the museum. You see, when I see this stuff, right? When I see this type of artwork, it's like, wow, that is so impressive. And, that's something else. And it's like, I appreciate it and I enjoy watching, looking at it and taking it in. Um, I would never want to paint that ever. Like I look at that and I'm just like, yeah, I don't ever want to do that. It's gorgeous. I'll look at it. I don't want to do it. Conley says me either, to be honest, right? But let me show you a different artist, for instance. King of What's Left says, "Oh, I want to know how." Like Bob Ross made it look easy, but this is like something else, and you can do it. I'm sure you can learn how to do that. See, if I was, um, see, I think I would be more interested in doing if I was going to do a landscape, like just a landscape. I might be more interested in something like this, or um, there's another painter for landscapes. Oh, what's his name? I'm not going to remember his name right now. Shoot. Let's see. Um, Really quick, I'm trying to see if it pops up. Um, there's a few artists who I follow who landscape artists that I really love that I can't remember everyone's name. I'm so bad with names. That's one of my main issues. Uh, I was hoping it would just happen to pop up, but nope, not just popping up. Oh well. Last chance. Let's look for long for it on. Um, I literally am not like I can't remember enough of their name to even find them through a search. So, oh well. King of What's Left says it's just unique. Like it looks like both a photo realistic and yet like completely like a uh like a hand at the same time. Wait, what? Did I miss something? Oh, Donnelly says time and attention to detail, everything in focus for a Hudson River school. As much detail as you can pack in, pretty much. I think that's the secret. Yeah, it. You know what it is? Okay, I think here's what I think that the way that you accomplish that look. Okay, let me think about it. The Hudson School, thing. First of all, it's worth knowing that they were like almost advertising the majesticness and the, scenery of America. So they made everything overblown, right? So it's not realistic at all, right? That's one. So it really is fantasy scenery based off of what they were seeing, right? But it's fantasy. So that's like the first thing. So I would say, what I would do is I would I would what's it called? I would look at concept artists who do fantasy scenes, right? That are also realistic for like video games and stuff like that. And then that's one. And then another aspect of it is painted very realistic. So it's a very, very tight, very realistic. I don't think you really see a lot of brush strokes in it. So it's very smooth, very realistic. Um, so that's another element to practice. And then it's the scale. The scale is a huge part of it because if you shrank it down, right? If they were this big, it would look like a sketch almost because you would lose so much of the detail, right? It would look like a concept painting done, kind of the way that they do for video games, essentially. King of What's Next is, yeah, when they released a new painting, they legit had like red carpet events. Yeah, because it was essentially like advertisement. It was a big deal. And like I said, it wasn't realistic. So it is essentially like fantasy painting. And then they did a great job also with like atmosphere and those types of effects, which once again you can learn a lot of that from like concept artists, right? So you know those are like the, I guess, the different skills that you kind of need to combine to be able to do that. Another other people to kind of look to learn how to do that would be muralists, right? Because they do um, huge paintings, and a lot of them have to do it in a much quicker time frame. So they probably have a lot of tips and tricks on how to do that. Oh, I'm gonna take this opportunity to stretch my back a little. Oh, but yeah, that's, I think, who I would kind of look at. And like those are the skills that you know, you can learn from the people who do that and be able to do it yourself if that's what you want to do. It's a lot to think about. Yeah. But I mean, all those skills also transfer really well to other things too, you know what I mean? In art. So it all feeds into it's into each other. My thoughts might change when I go to the museum and see one of the big uh Mama James up close. True, true. But, the good thing is you don't have to practice, and in fact, I would say it would be recommended not to practice everything all at once. You can practice the pieces of it, And I mean, that's really how I would approach it because if you go for the whole thing all at once, it's too much, unless you're already doing stuff like that. I mean, if that's already like what you do, sure, go wild, have fun. But if it's not, then it's a lot to just kind of be like, oh, I'm just going to do that. Like I said, unless you already have those kind of skills, in which case, go wild, have fun. Yeah, Don Lee's right. It is it is lucky that you can go see him, to see the artwork in person like that. Um, let's see. No, 1 second. Are these too red? Uh, those colors are too much, but more focused on the placement right now than anything. But yeah, my hand's not that steady. That's why I have them all stick too. You made them all stick yesterday, huh? Yeah, they're so useful. I used to have I had one of those like small magnet retractable magnet sticks that like you use to pick up little things that fall behind um like in cracks or behind things. I used to use that as my maul stick until I broke it. It was flimsy. Every time I put my hand on it, it bent. Like it wasn't, it was flimsy to begin with. Uh, what's this? This dude like $5 in material. Amazon wanted like $40. They could kiss my fattest part of my ass. Yeah, yeah. No, this is a stick from Home Depot. I painted it just so that it so I wouldn't get splinters. You just had a pretty powerful windstorm come through my area. I could have saved you $5, Donnelly says. Yeah. Yeah, $3 dowel, $2 bouncy ball from Petco. You had the glue. I didn't even use a bouncy ball. I just grabbed some rag, like literally a shirt or something that I was going to throw away, and I just wrapped it around there and used some tape. Doesn't have to be fancy, you know. I mean, I guess if I put it against the a wet part of the painting, it would suck. I mean, it kind of the way it always is. Don't put it against the wet painting, you know. Conley says, "Don't put it against a wet painting." Leon 2026. I mean, yeah, I feel like that's decent advice. I mean, it's not as good as the channel's motto, which is "Don't eat your paint." But I mean, it's still decent advice. "Don't eat your paint" is just such a banger. You know, it's hard to find anything better than that, really. King of What's Left says, "Or you'll maul your painting." It's true. You put you know, stick against your wet painting. Yep, absolutely. Don't eat your paint. That's pretty solid. Yeah. Thanks, Donnelly. I appreciate it. It is. And it's universal. It's not even just for oil paints, you know? I guess there's always the caveat, like, yeah, if you buy paint specifically to eat, that's like made to be edible. But I mean, come on. Come on. Can't address every single possible option. King of What's Left says, flake white maybe, but the rest you won't die. Bon appetit. I mean, you won't probably die from flake white for a while either, you know? You just become really stupid, maybe go insane, I think. I don't I don't know what I don't remember exactly what lead poisoning does to a person. And I also don't know what you know, um I don't know what cobalt does to a person. I have cobalt paints. Um, Pretty sure those are bad. Cadmium too. Even phthalo. It's technically what is phthalo? Aluminum, if I remember correctly. They had over here demoralizing pudding finger painters. Yeah. King of what's less is. You heard it here, folks. Eat lead paint, lol. I'm pretty sure it's the opposite of what I said, but I mean, I can't stop you. Just tell you not to do it. I think the only one you could technically get away with is probably earth tones like umber. Um, yeah, because they're just like dirt. You're literally just like eating dirt. And the other one that maybe is like bismuth yellow because I think there's a version of bismuth that is like intentionally edible. Not the paint, the chemical, right? Um, like they use it for something. I think it's used for something else. But like I said, I don't think it's the paint necessarily, right? So I would probably say it's probably not good to eat. But yeah, paint generally toxic. The funny thing is people think that like oil paint is so toxic because of like the fumes. And obviously it can be. But all these things that we're talking about, those are just the pigments. Those are the same pigments in every paint out there. The same ones. Not only that, they're actually more dangerous in other painting mediums sometimes because you know they have it there's some mediums tend to produce more dust and particles and stuff. That's extra bad. Oh, the titanium white. Titanium is literally in our toothpaste. Yeah, a titanium white. We already eat tons of hidden things. Okay. Yeah, that might be the one, maybe. Uh, But also worth mentioning that a lot of paints have other chemicals in there to stabilize. So, just not worth it. I don't care how sweet um, the lead tastes, you know? All right. All right, friends. We're up to almost 3 hours. Yeah. Let's see. King of what's left says, I think just the pigment. We aren't squeezing a tube of Winsor Newton into Colgate's toothpaste. True, true. I get a. I'm pretty sure they don't add the mint to the titanium white either. Doesn't smell minty to me at least. Let's see. No, definitely not minty. All right. Well, King of What's Left, it was very nice meeting you. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to call it a night. My back needs a break. I need to just eat some dinner and I'll get back to the painting, but I need a long break. Um, right now I'm only streaming once a week, but I'm hoping to do more, and I'm also working towards, I keep saying this, but I'm working towards releasing more YouTube videos. Yeah, check out my YouTube channel and so on. Yeah, paint smells like a train hobo's backpack. I wouldn't go that far. No, barely has a smell. At least this paint does. Yeah, most of my paint barely smells like anything. So I don't know what kind of cheap paint you're buying. I did buy what's it called? Really, really cheap water soluble oil paints, and those smelled horrible. So yeah, but most of my paints barely have any scent to them. But yeah. All right, everyone, I'm going to call it a night. Thanks so much for being here. I had a good time. What brand? What brand was the cheap paint? Or the brands I use? The brands I use mostly is Winsor Newton Gamblin. I really like what is the M-Gram. I really like M-Gram, and I've been buying Tusk and Pine. It's a um it's a brand from um Jerry's Artarama. I've been buying that a lot lately because it's cheaper. It's not cheap. Winsor Newton, I think, is still generally cheaper, but they were on sale at one point, so I got like a good deal on it when it was on sale, and I like them so far. I've been enjoying them. Um, but yeah, I really like M-Gram. M-Gram's one of my favorites. I like softer paint. You know, I'm not like Winsor Newton is not my favorite, but it is good enough. And I use it. Like I have a big tube of permanent rose here because it was so much cheaper than other brands, and some brands don't even have it. Like M-Gram doesn't have permanent rose in a large tube. So yeah. I did buy a couple of tubes of paint that of just like one-offs here and there to try. I have Michael Harding and Williamsburg. Michael Harding, so far I like. Williamsburg is, I've had hit and miss with it. The hits are good, obviously, they're pretty good. King of What's Left says I'm a gambling man, but haven't explored. Gambling's great, they're not my favorite. They're too stiff and waxy, generally speaking, but their artist grade stuff is better than obviously than the student grade. And I do have a tube of their like white that I use. They don't have zinc in their titanium white. I will not buy any titanium white that has zinc in it anymore. So they don't. So that's a plus. Yeah. You know any brands that have flake white? Yes. Um, uh, two or three. Williamsburg has flake white. Um, and uh, Rublev. Uh, this isn't flake white, but Rublev, the brand. They also have titanium white and maybe Michael Harding. I'm not sure. And probably, yeah, I don't know. Actually, Michael Harding might not because they're not an American brand. I think American brands are the only ones who are allowed to poison people with lead white. They don't let you sell it in the EU. Maybe there's some Chinese brands. They might just throw it in for free. But yeah, no, I think I know for sure that Rublev has it and Williamsburg and Rublev for sure. Anyways, all right, I'm calling it a night now. Have a good wait. Camera used to be there. Have a good night, everybody. I'll be back next Saturday, and yeah, that's all I got for now. All right, have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.